Hi.
Hello guys, if you're brand new to my channel, my name is Nikki and this is my book nook. If you guys saw my previous video, then you know I just recently read my very first Colleen Hoover book. I picked up Verity, I read it, I was so blown away and amazed by it. It was so completely disturbing, but I was like, Colleen Hoover is a genius. She is so worth the hype. I immediately, like, not even halfway through the book, I went ahead and ordered like 5 more of her books. And after finishing Verity, I fully intended to start a new series, but I just kind of felt myself going into a bit of a reading slump. So I was like, let me just get one more Colleen book in as a bit of a palate cleanser before I start my next series. So I decided to read It Ends With Us. This is the Colleen Hoover book that I have by far seen the most on every platform. YouTube, Book Talk, it's everywhere. People just forever recommend this book, and I didn't know what it was about at all. In general, whenever I am looking at book recommendations, I try to not find anything out about it. If I see a bunch of people are recommending it, I don't need a synopsis, I don't need to know anything. I'm just gonna pick it up and read it. Like I'll figure it out for myself. I don't know. I just don't want any spoilers. I don't want anything to skew what's happening. But yes, as far as I was aware, this book was just a straight romance, because I know that Verity is not Colleen's like typical type of book. She's very known for her romances, her emotional stories. So I thought I knew what I was getting into with this. I'm like, this is gonna be a sweet, happy romance. And to put it lightly, this book destroyed me. I am still honestly sitting here starting to talk about this when I was setting up the camera and stuff. I just felt my heart like palpitating, is that the right word? Because this book, like, still like days later after reading it, I'm just still thinking about it. It's still like hurting me. I still have like a pit in my stomach. It was a fantastic book, like a fantastically written book. She is amazing. So I'm just gonna give like a short little spoiler-free synopsis / review, and then at some point I'm gonna have to say, if you have not yet read this book, exit, because I need to talk about this. I need to get some things out that I cannot talk about without spoiling it. So this book follows a girl named Lily Bloom, and it is kind of telling 2 love stories in the same moment. In the beginning of the book, the very beginning, she meets a guy named Ryle. He is a neurosurgeon. Ryle is like the epitome of like the dream man. I so quickly like fell in love with Ryle. I mean, he is handsome, he is so ambitious, he's so successful, he's so charming, he's so funny, he's just perfect. Like literally I was just like, oh my god, this is my dream man in this book. And so she's kind of, her relationship with him is kind of developing. They go their separate ways, they end up meeting, coming back together, you know how it goes. Super great. But simultaneously at the same time, Lily is like packing up her apartment, and she finds an old journal of hers where she has kind of recounted this love story that she went through in high school with this boy named Atlas. Atlas was a homeless boy that was crashing in an abandoned house next door to her, and she ended up helping him and like bringing him food and stuff, and they kind of bonded over that. But yes, you're like reading, you're like flashing back as you're also like seeing Lily in present day and starting a new relationship with this guy Ryle, and things happen, things come to a head, decisions are made, my heart is destroyed. Yeah, it's a great, very interesting book. I definitely say to go read this. Anybody that's thinking about reading it, go read it. But I will just come out and warn you that like this book is one big trigger warning. Like every possible, like I can't get specific because I don't want to spoil it, but like every possible thing that there could be a trigger warning for, like it's in this book. So if you, it's not a light read, I guess is what I'm trying to say. If you're not in the mood, honestly, I would say if you're going to read this book, you kind of have to be in like a neutral mindset, because I feel like, honestly, going into it, I was in a really happy mindset, and it like, the last few days, it has like brought me down. I don't want to discourage you from reading it, because like it's a great book. It's so thought-provoking. It deals with very serious, real topics, which are just, you know, they pull at your heartstrings. But I also wouldn't recommend you read this book if you're like super sad and depressed, because it probably won't make that any better. You kind of just have to go into it with a neutral, open mind. The first half of the book is so amazing, so happy. And then, you know, plot twist, blah, blah, blah. Great book. Colleen Hoover is an absolute genius. She makes me feel things. She really has a way of making you truly fall in love with her characters and trust them, and to the point that like when a character makes a bad decision or does wrongs another character, like you feel like you are the one that has been betrayed. Like I don't know how she just like digs into you, and she's amazing. I don't know how she does it, but I'm totally gonna continue to read more of her books. But yes, this is the point where if you haven't read the book, you need to exit because I just need to talk about this. Y'all, this book, like I said, Ryle to me was like chef's kiss, the ultimate dream man. The way that the first scene on that roof, just his like confident, bold attitude, the way that he was so smooth, so charming, again, so successful, but still so ambitious, like so passionate about what he does. Like everything about him, I was like, oh my God, this is like the man of my dreams. Like I want Ryle. I was obsessed with him. So when we're telling the story of Atlas, like I found it to be interesting for sure, but at the same time, I was so personally like in love with Ryle that I was like, get this away. Like I could tell that like the Atlas thing was gonna come to a head, but I was like, no, like I don't, like I love Ryle. Like stop thinking about the high school boyfriend. Like we don't need him. I thought the story was very sweet and cute and like all of that. But yeah, like Atlas was kind of like a thorn in my side a little bit just because I was so obsessed with Ryle. Obviously, the obsession with Ryle ends very quickly whenever the first time he hurts her. This is where the book took a turn. I had no idea that's what this book was about. I didn't know, like I knew obviously in the beginning she talks about her father being abusive towards her mother. Literally, I felt my heart shatter whenever Ryle like pushed her, that whole scene in the kitchen. Like I have never been through something like this. You can never say like if you're not in that situation like what you would do, but I am so like not a person to give second chances for anything or anybody, which is why there's like so few people in relationships in my life. I see a red flag and I'm like, bye, gone. So it just, for me, as I was reading this book, even though I was so in love with Ryle and I was so in love with Ryle and Lily's relationship, the very second he put his hands on her, knowing especially like that her father was abusive to her mother, like, and he didn't just push her, like in a lot of ways you could see in the beginning how like it was an accident, he just burned his hand, like it was a reflex, he overreacted, but like he also like yelled at her. Like it was just very clear from that point, it's like, this guy's got some issues. You gotta go. So like, that's not that far into the book, and already at that point I was just like, my heart was broken in two and I was like, okay, we're done with Ryle. I'm done with him. Like it was so hard from there on out to read the book because it just, even like all the good things he did when he bought their apartment, like when he would take her on sweet dates and they had sweet moments, I'm like, I don't care. This man is clearly abusive. Like you have to let him go. And like it just sucked. And then the whole story with Atlas when she runs into him, their story also was just heartbreaking because it's like timing is everything in life, you know, and clearly their timing was never right. But this story was just like so real and so sad. Like I feel like in so many stories you read it and you're like judging the protagonist, the main character, whatever. You're like, oh, so easy. If I was in this situation, like I would do this. But like her situation is like so difficult that it's like, it's hard to say like what you would do. And like when she ends up being pregnant, like, oh my God, like that is like my biggest fear in life. Like, I don't know, like I just get so, I feel like marriage in general, like this is getting deep, but like I want to be married 100%, but like I have this like, the thought of finding someone that I'd be willing to spend forever with is like a crazy thought to me, just cause like, you know, so having that happen, and then it's like, now you're pregnant, so you're like stuck. Like you're not stuck, you can be a single mom, go for it, but just like, God, the situation just like couldn't have been freaking worse. So yeah, so sad. I mean, I thought the ending was amazing, like her decision to leave, and like he's obviously a great dad, but like they just can't be together. Like I get that, I totally get it. Like she made the right decision. I was so happy with that. In the end, it was still heartbreaking because I still, like, you love Ryle. Like I felt her dilemma, I felt her pain because I loved Ryle so much, but clearly like you can't be with him, which sucks. for me, honestly, like this book, it obviously made me feel something, so I want to give it like 5 stars, but I have to give it a 4.5 just because something about her and Atlas's relationship to me just felt like unfinished. I don't know. I wasn't like upset, like obviously I didn't want her to be with Ryle, but her connection and chemistry with Ryle was so obvious and so apparent right from the beginning. Like they just clicked on so many levels. Like you could literally feel the chemistry like rolling off them through the book. Where like I never felt that about Atlas. Like I felt like their love was simply that like high school puppy love of like you're spending so much time with this person and you're a boy and a girl and you have hormones and things are gonna happen. You know, like I felt like that was kind of their love, so I felt like maybe like that should stay in high school. Like obviously with the way he defended her, the way he protected her was amazing, and I am not a person to like highlight or annotate my books. I really like to keep them pristine, so I so rarely mark in the lines, but that quote from Atlas whenever she like closed the door and then he knocked on it and he's like, I know it's probably impossible for you to open your heart again, but if you can, like, if you ever decide to fall in love again, like, fall in love with me. I literally, the second that line was read, I literally, I'm having issues. Tears, like, bursted from my eyes. And, like, I can literally count on, like, 1.5 hands, maybe, the amount of books in my life that have made me cry. And that, this whole situation was just so heart-shattering, and I want to cry about it even now. Yeah, so what did y'all think? Do you agree with me? Like, were you obsessed with Atlas? Like, I just felt like there was a little lack of flavor there for me. Obviously he's a great guy, obviously he's gonna like defend her to the end and like will always take care of her, will be like a great father to like their daughter and all of that. Which also, okay, real quick, the way that the daughter, they named her after the brother, I thought that whole side story with the brother, the way that Ryle had like accidentally shot his brother, I don't really understand what the point of that was. Like, I felt like it was just unnecessarily dark. I guess the reason was like when people are like abusive, like you try to like come up with like excuses for why they act that way. So I guess maybe that was his excuse, that he was like traumatized and like that's why he overreacts. But to me, I was just like, that was like not really that necessary. I don't know. I didn't like that part of the story. I didn't think it was needed. And it was just like extra dark for no reason. But yeah, that is my thought, that is my ramble. My face is like red, I'm flustered. I will for sure read more Colleen Hoover books, but like I need to take a steady break. Like this was rough, and it made it even more rough when you got to the acknowledgements at the end and you read that like this was based on like her parents' marriage, and like the first fight that Lily and Ryle have is literally the exact fight her parents had the first time her dad hit her mom. I just can't imagine. I can't imagine any of it. It's heartbreaking. It's awful. But yeah, let me know y'all's thoughts. I'm gonna read more Colleen eventually. I need to jump back into the fantasy world. I need to get away from real life issues. But yeah, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will talk to you guys very soon. Bye.